Michael Jackson stood in the marble lobby of MTV Headquarters in 1983, his hands trembling slightly as the receptionist looked him up and down with barely disguised contempt. She didn't recognize the man in the simple red leather jacket. What she said next would have destroyed most artists. "We don't play black artists here." But what Michael did in the next 12 minutes didn't just change her mind, it changed the entire course of television history forever. March 1983, New York City. The MTV building on Broadway gleamed with glass and steel, a monument to the new era of music television. Inside, the network that had launched just 2 years earlier was already dominating youth culture. But there was a problem nobody wanted to talk about, a problem that was about to explode in the most spectacular way possible. Michael Jackson pushed through the revolving doors at 2:15 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. He'd driven himself there. No entourage, no security, no manager. Just Michael, wearing a red leather jacket over a simple black shirt, his signature sunglasses hiding eyes that had seen too much rejection already in his 24 years. He walked to the reception desk where a young woman named Jennifer sat filing her nails, her blonde hair teased high in the style of the era. "I need to speak with Robert Pittman," Michael said quietly. His voice was soft, almost fragile, the voice that would become so famous, so imitated, but in that moment carried the weight of frustration and determination. Jennifer looked up, her expression already forming into dismissal before she even processed who was standing in front of her. "Do you have an appointment?" she asked, her tone making it clear she already knew the answer. "No," Michael admitted, "but I think he'll want to see me." Jennifer's laugh was sharp and cruel. "Look, I don't know who you are, but Mr. Pittman doesn't see anyone without an appointment. And between you and me?" She leaned forward, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "We don't play black artists here. It's not our demographic. Maybe you should try BET or something." The words hung in the air like a slap. Michael stood perfectly still, his face unreadable behind those sunglasses. But if you'd been close enough, you would have seen his jaw tighten, seen the slight tremor in his hands increase, seen the way he took a slow, deliberate breath before responding. What Jennifer didn't know was that Michael Jackson had been hearing variations of this his entire life. Too black for white radio, too pop for black radio, too young, too old, too weird, too different. From the moment the Jackson 5 had broken through, Michael had been navigating a music industry built on segregation, both obvious and subtle. But this was supposed to be different. MTV was supposed to be about the music, about the innovation, about the future. "I'd still like to see Mr. Pittman," Michael said, his voice remaining calm, controlled. Years of dealing with his father's rage had taught him how to keep emotion buried deep, how to stay focused on the goal even when everything inside was screaming. Jennifer rolled her eyes. "I already told you. Tell him Michael Jackson is here." The name hung in the air. Jennifer blinked, looked at him more carefully. The jacket, the sunglasses, the gentle voice. Her face went pale as recognition crashed over her like a wave. "Oh my God," she whispered. Michael Jackson wrote Thriller just 4 months earlier. The album was climbing the charts, but it hadn't yet exploded into the cultural phenomenon it would become. Billie Jean was getting some radio play, but MTV hadn't touched it. Neither had they played Beat It. The network's excuse was always the same. It wasn't rock. It wasn't their format. It didn't fit their brand. But everyone in the music industry knew the real reason. MTV didn't play black artists, period. In 2 years of broadcasting, they'd played exactly 3 videos by black artists. 3, and none of them in heavy rotation. Jennifer scrambled for the phone. Her earlier confidence completely evaporated. "Mr. Pittman, Michael Jackson is here." "Yes, Michael Jackson. The singer. He wants to see you." "No, he doesn't have an appointment, but..." Michael could hear the tinny voice on the other end, sharp and irritated. Jennifer's face showed the struggle, caught between the man in front of her and the voice on the phone. "He says you need to make an appointment through proper channels," Jennifer said finally, her voice small. Michael reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small cassette tape. On it, written in his own handwriting, were the words "Thriller Video Treatment." He placed it gently on the reception desk. "Give him this," Michael said. "Tell him I'll wait exactly 15 minutes. If he doesn't come down, I walk out and he never sees what could have been the biggest video in television history." There was steel in that soft voice now. Jennifer picked up the phone again. What happened in those next 12 minutes would become legend in the music industry, though the full story wouldn't emerge for years. Robert Pittman, MTV's co-founder and executive, did come down. Not because he wanted to, but because his curiosity got the better of him. Michael Jackson standing in their lobby, making ultimatums. It was too bizarre to ignore. Pittman emerged from the elevator in his expensive suit, his expression a mixture of annoyance and curiosity. He was a tall man, confident, used to being the one with power in any room. At 29, he'd already revolutionized television. He wasn't used to being summoned. "Mr. Jackson," Pittman said, extending his hand with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "This is quite unexpected." Michael shook his hand, but didn't return the smile. "We need to talk about why MTV doesn't play my videos." Pittman's smile faltered slightly. "I'm sure you understand. It's nothing personal. It's about format. MTV plays rock music. Your music is more pop, R&B. It doesn't fit what our viewers expect." "Viewers expect what you show them," Michael replied quietly. "And right now you're showing them that black artists don't belong on your network." The accusation hung between them. People in the lobby had stopped moving, sensing the tension of this confrontation. Jennifer was frozen at her desk, barely breathing. "That's not fair," Pittman said, his voice hardening. "We've played videos by black artists. We played Joan Armatrading. We played 3 videos in 2 years, Michael interrupted, his voice still soft but carrying absolute conviction. 3 videos by black artists in 2 years of broadcasting. Don't tell me that's about format. That's about race." Pittman's face flushed red. "Mr. Jackson, I don't think you understand the business realities of—" "I understand perfectly," Michael said. He picked up the cassette tape from the reception desk and held it up. "This is the treatment for the video I'm making for Thriller. Not just a performance video, a short film, 14 minutes long, budget of $500,000, directed by John Landis. Special effects by Rick Baker. It's going to change what music videos can be." Michael paused, letting that sink in. "But here's the thing, Mr. Pittman. If MTV isn't going to play videos by black artists, then I'm not sure why I should give you the exclusive premiere. BET would love it. Black radio would promote it. And when it becomes the biggest video in history, everyone will remember that MTV said no because of the color of my skin." The threat was delivered without anger, without heat, just cold, hard business reality. Pittman's expression changed. He was a businessman first, and what Michael was describing was something he couldn't afford to miss. "Now wait a minute," Pittman said. "I never said we wouldn't play it. I'm just explaining our format considerations." "Format," Michael repeated, and for the first time, there was an edge to his voice. "Let me tell you about format. I've been hearing about format my whole life. The Jackson 5 were told we didn't fit the format for white radio stations. We were too black. Then we were told we didn't fit the format for black radio because we were too pop. Now you're telling me I don't fit MTV's format." Michael took off his sunglasses, and Pittman found himself looking into eyes that held an intensity that was unsettling. "But here's what I know about format. Format is just a word people use when they mean segregation, when they mean we don't want your kind here, and I'm done accepting that." A small crowd had gathered now. MTV employees on their way through the lobby had stopped to watch. Some recognized Michael, others were just drawn to the confrontation. "Mr. Jackson," Pittman tried again, his tone now more conciliatory. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. We're absolutely interested in great music videos. If your Thriller's video is as spectacular as you say, it will be," Michael said simply. "But that's not the point. The point is that you should have been playing Billie Jean and Beat It already, not because I'm threatening you with exclusivity, but because they're good, because they're innovative, because your viewers would love them if you gave them the chance." Michael stepped closer, and despite being smaller than Pittman, despite the softness of his voice, he somehow dominated the space. "You've built this network on the idea that you're revolutionary, that you're changing music, but you can't change music while perpetuating the same old racism that's always held it back." Pittman opened his mouth to respond, but Michael held up his hand. "Let me finish. CBS Records is very interested in this issue. Walter Yetnikoff, the president, he's ready to pull all CBS videos from MTV if you don't start playing videos by black artists. not just mine. Prince, Marvin Gaye, Rick James, all of them. This was the nuclear option, and Pittman knew it. CBS was one of the biggest record labels in the world. Losing their content would devastate MTV's programming. Walter is threatening to. Pittman started, anger creeping into his voice. Walter isn't threatening anything, Michael interrupted. I am, because I asked him to. Because I'm tired of being told I don't fit. Because I'm tired of seeing talented black artists shut out of the biggest platform in music television. Michael placed the cassette tape in Pittman's hand. So here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna go upstairs, you're gonna watch this treatment, and you're gonna make a decision. Are you going to be the network that changed music television? Or are you going to be the network that missed the biggest cultural moment of the decade because you were too busy protecting a format that was really just racism in disguise? The lobby was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Jennifer had tears streaming down her face, though she couldn't have explained why. She'd just witnessed something profound. Something that felt bigger than a confrontation between a singer and an executive. Pittman looked at the tape in his hand, then back at Michael. And if I say yes, if MTV commits to playing videos by black artists in regular rotation, then you get the Thriller's premiere, Michael said, and you get to be part of history instead of being left behind by it. Robert Pittman stood there in that lobby, and in that moment, he had to make a choice. The business side of his brain was screaming at him to agree, to do whatever it took to get that Thriller's premiere. But there was something else happening too. Something in Michael Jackson's calm, determined challenge had gotten through his defenses, had made him see clearly what he'd been avoiding seeing. That MTV's format was discrimination, that they'd built a network that excluded an entire group of artists, not because of quality, but because of color. Okay, Pittman said finally, you're right, we've been wrong, we'll add Billie Jean to rotation immediately. Beat It's 2, and we'll actively seek out videos by black artists to feature. Michael nodded slowly. I want it in writing, and I want a commitment that this isn't just about me, that you're genuinely changing your programming policy. You'll have it, Pittman said. And something in his voice suggested he meant it, that this conversation had genuinely changed something in him. Michael put his sunglasses back on. Good, my people will be in touch about the Thriller's premiere. It's going to be special, and MTV is going to be part of it. He turned to leave, then paused and looked back at Jennifer, who was still crying quietly at her desk. Miss, what you said earlier about not playing black artists, I hope you understand now why that was wrong. Not just wrong for business, but wrong for people, wrong for art, wrong for music. Jennifer nodded, unable to speak. Michael walked out of the MTV headquarters at 2:27 p.m. 12 minutes after he'd issued his ultimatum, 12 minutes that changed everything. The next day, Billie Jean premiered on MTV in heavy rotation. Within a week, it was one of their most played videos. Beat It followed. The response from viewers was overwhelming. MTV's ratings soared. It turned out that when given the chance, their audience loved music by black artists just as much as any other music. On December 2nd, 1983, MTV premiered the Thriller video. It was everything Michael had promised. A 14-minute horror movie with state-of-the-art special effects, incredible choreography, and a vision that expanded what music videos could be. The premiere drew the biggest audience in MTV's history. The video became a cultural phenomenon, playing on MTV in heavy rotation and helping drive Thriller to become the best-selling album of all time. But the real change was bigger than one video, bigger than one artist. MTV's programming changed fundamentally after Michael's confrontation. Prince, Tina Turner, Lionel Richie, Whitney Houston. Suddenly black artists were all over MTV. The network that had been built on segregation became one of the most integrated platforms in media. Years later, when Robert Pittman was asked about that day, he admitted something surprising. Michael was right. We'd been hiding behind formats as an excuse for discrimination. It took someone with his courage and his leverage to make us face what we were doing. That 12-minute conversation in our lobby did more to change MTV than any board meeting or business strategy. It forced us to be better. Jennifer, the receptionist, left MTV 3 months later. She went to work for a civil rights organization, later saying that watching Michael Jackson stand up for what was right while she'd been part of the problem had fundamentally changed her understanding of her own complicity in discrimination. But the biggest impact was on the industry itself. Michael's stand at MTV became a blueprint for other artists. When doors were closed because of race, you didn't just accept it, you fought back. Not with violence, not with anger, but with the power of your art and the force of your conviction. The story of what happened in that lobby didn't become public for years. Michael never talked about it in interviews, never used it to promote himself. That wasn't why he'd done it. He'd done it because it was right, because he was tired of being told he didn't belong, because he understood that his success gave him leverage, and leverage could be used to open doors not just for himself, but for everyone who came after him. In 2001, MTV celebrated its 20th anniversary with a special looking back at key moments in its history. They included Michael's Thriller premiere as one of their most important moments. What they didn't include, what they carefully avoided mentioning, was that without Michael's confrontation in their lobby, that premiere might never have happened. That MTV might have missed the biggest cultural moment in music video history because they were too committed to keeping black artists off their airwaves. When Michael Jackson died in 2009, MTV ran a 24-hour tribute. They played his videos constantly, discussed his impact, celebrated his genius. But some of the older employees, the ones who'd been there in 1983, knew a different story. They knew that Michael hadn't just given MTV great videos, he'd forced them to be better, to be fairer, to be what they'd claimed to be all along, a network about music, not about race. The lesson of those 12 minutes in March 1983 extends far beyond music television. It's about what happens when someone with power uses it, not just for themselves, but for others. When someone refuses to accept no based on discrimination. When someone stands up calmly, firmly, and says, "This is wrong, and I'm not going to accept it anymore." Michael Jackson could have taken the easy road. He could have accepted MTV's initial rejection, made his video anyway, and relied on other platforms. His career would have been fine. Thriller would still have been successful. But instead, he used his moment of leverage to change an entire industry's approach to race and programming. And that's the real Thriller. Not the zombies in the video, not the special effects or the choreography. The real Thriller is what happens when an artist becomes an activist, when a performer becomes a force for change, when someone says, "If I can open this door, then it needs to stay open for everyone who comes after me." Who in your life is facing that closed door right now? What system is telling them they don't fit the format? And more importantly, if you have leverage, if you have power, if you have a platform, what are you doing with it? Are you using it just for yourself? Or are you using it to open doors that should never have been closed in the first place? Because 12 minutes can change history. 12 minutes of courage. 12 minutes of refusing to accept discrimination. 12 minutes of standing firm on principle. Michael Jackson taught MTV that lesson in their own lobby, and 40 years later, we're still learning from it.